It's Charlie's new cage. He's been in it about 2 weeks now, and I'm really happy with it. It's given him so much more floor space and extra shelves, and it's a really good upgrade and improvement from his 80 by 50 cage, and I just wish I'd got a 100cm cage in the first place now. So it comes with, as the Barney has always done, it comes with a shelf on the left which has a ladder, and it comes with quite a big corner house which I haven't used because we already had quite a good house. So it comes with the same cage contents the Barney always came with. I wanted to set this up for access for him because he's not that young anymore. He's 19 months old, so he's not old, but he's not as young as he used to be. And so I wanted him to still be able to have quite a lot of activity in there, but make it a little bit easier for access, just in case, you know, he can't climb very much soon if he gets older. So and the height is a bit higher than his other cage as well. It's about 7 centimeters taller, and I was a bit concerned about fall risk, so I've had to set that up quite carefully. Mainly I just put lots of deep substrate in, and that reduces the height and gives him a good cushion if he falls, and make sure there's nothing he can fall onto too far that is hard underneath. There isn't a lot of a gap above his bendy bridge there, but I am thinking of hanging something over that just in case. And what he has is the original Barney shelf on the left here, which I've put a hemp mat on top of, just in case. It makes it kind of cozier, and he likes the hemp mats, and it just kind of cushions a little bit. He's got his original vine log that was in this corner before, which is now on the shelf and quite high up, and there's an apple cracker dari chew sort of draped in there, which he went potty for as soon as he saw it. The back corner, he has his original little sand bath that used to be in his cage, and I had to take it out eventually because he didn't use it. He hated sand, and he used to just remove it all and fill it full of bedding, and I didn't have space for it, but I now have, so that's back in there, and he's enjoyed popping in and out of there quite a lot. He enjoyed that in the summer because it's nice and cool. He used to go and sit in there, ceramic. You can't see that very well, so I'll just open the top door. The only slight issue I have with this cage is the top door, and I believe this is quite common with cages with a large top door, bows a bit, and you can get a whole hand under there, so I think it's not quite escape proof like that and needs clipping down with something. At the moment I've just used some twist ties. I don't open that door every day, and they're easy enough to take off and put on, but I could do with a better solution like a big bulldog clip or something. The bar on the doors is actually 1 centimetre, not 7mm. No, a hamster can't get out of that, Syrian hamster, but because we live in a rural area, I've always tried to make sure our cages are mouse proof. We haven't had a problem with mice for a long time, but you never know. So I just cable tied these corner bits. They're actually only 8mm, the corner bits, but I did them anyway. And at the other side, and I just put some along this top bar here to kind of mouse proof it a little bit. And that, whether it's just my cage or whether all the ones with the top doors are like that, I don't know, but someone else suggested just putting a heavy book on it. So I'll have a look around the inside of his cage now. I tried to keep the setup as similar as it was before, so it's more familiar for him, and he did have a play in the cage before I moved him over, and he settled in quite well. He was a bit apprehensive the first couple of days, but he's just happy as Larry now, so I think he likes the new things and the new space, and there's a lot of familiarity as well, so his house is exactly the same and in the same position. And I actually moved over all the contents of the house. It's got a lift-off flat roof, and I took the roof off and slid it underneath the house and lifted the whole lot over, so his nest and everything, hoards and everything inside there stayed intact. So I think that helped him settle into the cage, because everything inside the house was exactly the same, hadn't been moved, and it's the same house. So as before, he's got his large nesting box house at this end, which makes a kind of third shelf. He's got one at the back and one at this end as well, and it's actually a rabbit-sized fur-plus sin house. It's the same size as the Trixie Leaf Labyrinth house, about 35 centimetres by 23 centimetres, but it's just one big open space inside. But he did move his potty corner inside his house quite some time ago when he had a big house, so his potty's in one corner and his has a huge nest in the other end of it. And it does double up as a shelf, and the top lifts off, so you can kind of check inside and spot clean inside and empty the potty without having to take the whole house out. Because this cage is higher, the house sat a lot lower, so I've actually got it propped up on something, because I was a bit concerned about the height and the fall risks, and it was easier than trying to put another shelf over the top of it. So he has actually got supports under that house to hold it up, and he could actually tunnel underneath it if he could find the way through, but he doesn't bother doing that. So this shelf at the back is a new one. I got that from Ranch House Cages. They're quite good. They sell individual shelves of various sizes, or they sell packs of shelves, and it's 30 centimetres by 15 centimetres, and it kind of makes a racetrack then, because he's got his house roof and then that shelf and then the wheel and then the original Barney shelf along that side. I was particularly concerned to make sure access was easy in case he gets a bit weaker as he gets older, so he can actually go from one side to the other without going up or down anything. He goes onto there and through this big Savick rat tube, which I love, and that was a bit of an extravagance, an extra thing, into his Sputnik, and his Sputnik sits right on top of the shelf, and he could just hop out of that end, so he can go backwards and forwards without actually climbing up or down anything. There's a very, very short low climb just from the little bench step onto there. But also, if he's doing it by the floor, he can come out through his house, and there is a cork log there, which is a nice tunnel, and it also is like a small ramp up to the shelf here. It's not very far to climb up, and he can manage that. He's perfectly active at the moment, just a bit slower than he was. So he can go floor way or top way. He does seem to like going under that new shelf. He likes sitting under things, and he's got a few favourite spots in this cage now. A lot more space to go and hide and do various things and bury hoards. And another little ceramic house at the back that looks like a log. He's put a bit of a hoard in there, I think. He's still got his little red bench that he's always had, which only just looks nice, but he does sit on it now and then. He used to sit and have a wash on it when I first got it, but he's got plenty of places to go and have a wash now. And it does make a little bit of a step up from that shelf up to that one, which you can't see. His little Sputnik, which was always a bit small, but I use it to put his vegetables in. So he has his food bowl there, and I always put his veg in there, and it makes him have to go somewhere to get them, so he goes up onto that shelf and in there and gets his veggies. Those two lava ledges don't look quite right. I just stuck them there. It needs a bit of tweaking, but it was to cover a bit of a gap at the edge of the house, because it would be quite a long drop from the roof all the way down, and he might catch himself, so I need to sort something out for that edge there. But I thought I'd give it a chance for him to really settle into the cage before I change anything. He's got a new wheel. That's a Silent Runner 12-inch wheel, and I absolutely love it, and Charlie seems to like it too. It spins really well, it's silent, but most importantly I could put it wherever I wanted in the cage, because you can attach it to the bars, and I did a video review of that recently when I got it, and that really helped me set the cage up. I was going to have such a lot of problems trying to fit his old robust wheel in, and the robust wheel was so deep, it took up so much space, and I couldn't have fitted it on the back there where I wanted it. It would have had to have gone at the end, and then I wouldn't have been able to put the shelf in the right place. So it's really made a big difference. For a 12-inch wheel, it doesn't look massive, and that's what I really like about it. His rat Sputnik is almost in an identical place to where it was before, except now instead of a tube from the top of his house, which is a bit far, I've got this Savick rat tube over to the back shelf to make his roof run. The Savick tube is a bit longer than the boredom breaker tube I had before, so it just goes that extra bit further. And I've got it, it's got these little tabs on, so you can clip it onto the top, but that's not secure enough on its own, so it's also resting on the shelf at this end. And I've got it tied either side of the door to the bars with sisal string at this end, so it doesn't foul up the top door. You can tie the string either side of it, and it's nice and secure and held in place there. He's got a hyacinth tube there. He loves that, and he's had that for a while, but he had to have it as an out of cage toy because there was no space for it in the cage. And that means he can go in and out of there, or he also goes off the shelf and cross there sometimes. If he doesn't want to climb down, he can go straight across there and just hop off the end there. What else is there that's new? He's still got his K-Bob that's hanging over this end now, over this end of the shelf over there now. That's his little ceramic salt pig. There's something in there, I don't know what that is. Let's have a look. Oh, looks like he's put a monkey nut in there. So he's turned all these little hidey places into sort of extra hoards, I think. What's his vine log? That actually did provide access to the originally, so he could climb up the other side of the Sputnik, but he doesn't need that now. The shelf's there. It's just there to kind of climb over and add a bit of texture and interest. Underneath the shelf here, there's another tube with, oh, he's had a go at that. It's got some food stuck on the outside. He's had a good chew of that. And a chew stick, and that's the at the back thing. Just see the edge of his cork log, which provides the access up to the house, and it also is a tunnel he can go through. He's got his original little rainbow bridge that he's had from being a baby. Again, there wasn't space for that in the other cage, and he's got it back, and he immediately ran over it backwards and forwards loads of times. He loves that little bridge. He doesn't actually do anything practical, but he likes it. It's starting to look lived in now. He's making quite a nice mess in there, and he's just shoved a load of food out of his house the other day, having a bit of a clean up in there, which he does sometimes. He'll suddenly have a big clean in his house and chuck a load of stuff out through the tunnel. He's got 2 water bottles in there now. The one at the back I think is a little bit low for him. It's maybe an awkward angle. And after having one empty itself a couple of times, I always have 2 in now just to be on the safe side. And the other one is attached on the side there. I like these little bottles a lot. They're the Furplast drinky, not sippy, drinky bottles, 75ml ones. But I don't think the bars are quite as strong as this, on this, as they were on my Savick cage. They're pretty good bars, but once you put this clip on, it pushes them apart, and there was really quite a big gap there, so I've had to just stick a few cable ties on that. So he's got the 2 bottles there, and not much is new really, but the few additions that are new he really likes. And I was thinking more of things to hide under and little hidey places, because that's what he seemed to do the most in his old cage. He would either sit under the Sputnik or under a shelf, and he seems to like things over his head. But the other night I came down, and it was lovely. I came down in the middle of the night to get a drink, and he was just sat all curled up inside his Sputnik having a little nap. And I'm so glad he's using it. He didn't used to use it when I first got it, and I put a circle of hemp mat in there, because that's kind of safe for them and make it a bit cosier, because it's quite big. The other one's a bit small. The hamster size one's a bit small for a large Syrian, and the rat size one is quite big, but it kind of just makes it a bit cosier and less huge inside with the hemp mat inside it. I see he's got a monkey nut in there as well. You can buy these from Zooplus. I think it's about 40 centimetres by 100 centimetres, and you just cut it up to the size and shape you want. And I've still got the stone on top of his house that helps keep his nails short when he's going for a drink or food. He's got Fitch substrate, which he's had for a while now, and he really likes that, and I like it as well. Just a bit of torn up toilet paper there, extra nesting material. The bars on the cage, if you know the Barney cage, is exactly the same cage as you'd get from Zooplus, except the bars would be black instead of this grey colour. The week I bought it, it had actually gone up on Zooplus, and was so I bought this one from Amazon, which it cost a little bit more, but not that much more, because the price had gone up on Zooplus and it's now gone down again, so that's typical. But I did need it here for a certain date. I had a deadline to kind of get it here and set up, so I had other things going on. So I ordered the one from Amazon, and it was here the next day, which is amazing. It's exactly the same cage, just the bars are a different colour. So it has the 7mm bar spacing the same. I haven't found any particular big gaps anywhere. It looks like quite big gaps along the sides here, but it's actually only 8mm and you can't get a little finger in there. It's not as big as it looks. I'm not having any problems with access with this cage at all. It's only got the two small front doors, but I tend to find if you use the top one and one of these, you can do everything with both hands. I managed to reach right over the back side there with a hand through this little door here. And the top door is really good. I quite like it. It's not like you're coming at your hamster from the top, because you can kind of put your arm in at an angle, and mainly I use that so I can I do his food and water through this small door at the front here, but mainly I use that if I want to take the roof off Charlie's house so I can check him inside or empty his potty, and that makes that easier, so I don't do that every day. So leaving it clipped down a lot won't really be a big deal. The base is really deep. I like it. It's deeper than my old base. The old base was supposed to be 16 centimetres, and this is quoted as being 16 centimetres, but it's actually 17 on the outside. Inside it might only be 16, but somehow it just seems and looks a lot deeper than the old one. And I've got it full to the top with substrate, and I even had it piled up higher in the middle, but that's been taken into his nest now, and there's a bit piled up there. But the good thing about 7mm bar spacing is the substrate doesn't fall out. Obviously it depends what kind of substrate you use. If you use something very small and fine like hemp or aspen, you might get bits falling out, but with the bigger pieces of the fitch, which is similar to Carefresh, it doesn't fall out, and so you can actually pile it up in different places. I've got it right up there as well. It doesn't fall out. Obviously if you take the top of the cage off it would fall out, but I don't think that's something I'm going to do very often because it's so big. It's easier to clean it through the top door, I think, and unless you need a full cage clean, which I tend to spot clean mainly if he uses that wheel. I haven't seen him running in it apart from trying it out when he first saw it, because he tends to only run in his wheel at night. But I do leave a bit of substrate on top at night, and it's always gone in the morning, so I know he's using it. And that's his coconut house down there. If you like it, because it's one of the few I've seen that has a hole in it big enough for a Syrian. When I first got his last cage, I knew that the recommendation was a minimum of 80 centimetres by 50 centimetres, so I bought an 80 centimetre by 50 centimetre cage, and I kind of wish that the recommendation was for a minimum 100 centimetres, because I don't think the 80 by 50 is quite big enough for a Syrian. This is just right. I love it. It's perfect. You've got enough space to put loads of stuff in it, and for him to have loads of activity. And the extra 20 centimetres on the shelf makes all that difference. There's all the extra floor space. Before, it was all taken up with his wheel and his house, and not much extra to run around in. Now he can explore and go under there, and up here he's got 3 shelves, he's got a load of extra floor space. He's still got a roof run, and he's settled in really well. I mean, apart from being a bit apprehensive the first couple of days, he's been using everything. But I would have been really happy with an Alexander cage as well, but unfortunately they were out of stock when I wanted to order one for quite a few days. And I'm quite glad I got the Barney now. I don't think it works out a lot of difference in price, really, because although the Barney is cheaper, you have to buy extra shelves for it, really. I think it does need a couple of extra shelves, depending on the age of your hamster and what toys you've got already. Whereas the Alexander might cost a bit more, but it comes with 3 shelves to start with, and you can put them where you want them. There are pros and cons to both of them. They're both lovely cages. This one has the flat roof, so on the one hand it's easier for fitting roof toys too, and for fitting the wheel where you want it. On the other hand, with the Alexander, with its slightly sloping one, makes less likely to have a fall risk from the top, except in the middle, and you can kind of block the middle bit off. But overall, I'm really happy I got the Barney cage. The old Barney cage used to be 80 centimetres by about 52, and this one is about 101, I think, by 54 centimetres, and that 4 centimetres doesn't sound a lot different, but it really does make a difference, the amount of floor space. And that for me was the big advantage over the Alexander, was it's just that little bit deeper. And you know, you're talking centimetres, but somehow it does make a difference to the width and how much you can fit in, and the floor space, but not so much difference as to seem absolutely massive. It's also higher than the old 80 centimetre Barney cage. I'm not sure by how much, but this is almost the same height as the Alexander cage. It's only a few centimetres difference in height. The measurements quoted on the site aren't exact, because I think the Alexander includes the height of clips, and the Barney includes the height of clips, internal height, and this is about 43 centimetres, and I think the internal height in the Alexander is about 46 to 47 centimetres in the centre. So there's not a lot of difference in size. Both of them you have to look at making sure. It is quite a long way to drop from the top to the bottom if it's not full of substrate, or if you've got hard toys for them to land on. So hard toys are better under something or higher up, and I've gone with the higher up thing. I mean, that house wouldn't be stable sat on top of the substrate, so it's propped up with something underneath. And I could have had it set down so it was like a subterranean house, but then I'd have had to have found another shelf or hammock to go over the top of it, so I did it that way, and it makes the setup very similar to what he had before, so the familiarity was good. And that is the 100 centimetre Barney cage, which you can buy at Zooplus or Amazon in Germany. I think it's called the Barney Special, the one on Amazon in Germany, and the only difference is the colour of the bars and the door on top. But other than that, it's the identical cage. But I would recommend Zooplus really if it's in stock, because it's under £50 there, and I think that includes delivery as well. So it's a good value cage really. It gives you the size and the space and the narrow bar spacing, which would be suitable for any hamster, but at less than £50, so it's a good buy, I think. And I also think the Alexander's a lovely cage. I always wanted an Alexander, but I just went with what I could get at the time. I've been putting off doing this for a long time, and I'm glad I've done it now. I haven't been deliberately putting it off, it's just the timing had to be right. So and sometimes the timing's never right to do these things, and you just have to do it, which is what I did. So there we are. That's Charlie's new cage. I'm going to add a little video at the end of, I caught him napping in that coconut house at the back there the other night, which is quite nice, so I'll add that little bit at the end, and a few pictures of him in the cage. But the hyacinth log he absolutely loves. I'm really pleased with that. That's a small size, which normally small is not big enough for a Syrian, but this one is. It's quite deep. It's a good 6 or 7 centimetres. The hole is big enough as well. He likes chewing on it, and he's not really a chewer. He likes to have a little chew of it. He absolutely loved playing with that, so I think that was good. And it's also not hard, so it's not hard to land on if you ever fell onto it or anything. Rat Sputniks are a bit of a favourite with me as well, because I'd love to have a hammock in there, but the one time I tried him with a fleece hammock, he tried chewing it, and it's too risky, because if they chew fleece, it can cause digestive blockages and serious health problems. So I know some people do have fleece hammocks, but you have to make sure your hamster isn't going to chew them. If they do, they need to come out. And we did try them with one, but so I go with the Sputniks. They're plastic, they're safe. I mean, some hamsters even chew plastic, which isn't particularly good for them, but ours doesn't. The hammock mat makes it a bit cosier, so it's not quite a hammock that swings, but it's the nearest thing you can get, I think. I did try a grass hammock, but I don't know if it's just the one I got. It had quite a few spiky bits on, and I didn't fancy him getting injured on it. It was mainly okay, and maybe just being a bit cautious there, but I snipped a few spiky bits off and still wasn't happy with it, so I gave up on it. So that's Charlie's 100 centimetre Barney cage tour in February 2016, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions about the cage, just leave a comment or a question, and I'll let you know. I think it's a very popular cage because of the size and the price. Anybody who's thinking of getting a first cage, I would recommend going for a 100cm one. It saves you spending money later and upgrading, for a Syrian anyway. And it's also great for a dwarf. Dwarf hamsters are very active, and I didn't have space for a detolf, or I'd have got a detolf, but this was my second choice and I'm very happy with it. So thank you for watching, and bye for now.